It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Well, good morning, Stuart. It's good to be back here on a beautiful sunny Wednesday. Actually, it was starting to cloud over a little bit, but it's sunny out in Stuart. Just want to remind everybody, if you want to sign up and get the notification of who the special guest or guest will be in the studio, you can do that at my website, thecaseyingramshow.com. If you don't receive that email on Tuesday or Wednesday morning, check your spam. Sometimes it goes there. Again, you can do that at thecaseyingramshow.com. Got a doubleheader today. We're splitting the show in half, but we're talking all things great about Indiantown, and I'm very privileged to have in the studio today Susan Gibb Thomas. She's a council member in Indiantown, and appreciate you coming over here to share with us and share with the listeners what's going on in Indiantown. How are you doing today, Susan?
Well, thank you very well, and it is a beautiful day. Appreciate the opportunity.
It is, and it is absolutely my pleasure. Indiantown is so important to Martin County, and as we've spoken about this in the past a little bit, you've become a village. Was it 3 years now?
It has been 3 years. Yes, ma'am.
So, and you have been on the council from the start.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us a little bit about how that's going.
How's that going? We're moving right along. I don't believe that we've missed a step. We continue moving on to try to, as I like to say from the diocese, get everything, those puzzle pieces that we put in place and get everything under our umbrella.
Right.
There's still a few pieces, but we're moving on.
Well, one of the things that you're talking about currently is perhaps having your own fire station.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you fill us in on a little bit about that and where is that going, and tell me a little bit about the council's discussion of the fire station. For example, where's the money going to come from to pay for it?
Well, currently there is a tax. The county calls it an MSTU and that's a county term. That's how they have to deal with things. When it comes to us, we don't have MSTUs. But currently we send kind of a pass-through over $5 million. I think last year it was 5.9. Now it's like 5.3 because it's a
varies a little bit.
Yes,
okay.
it has to do with that millage rate.
Right.
5.3 million for our fire rescue, and our total budget is somewhere between 10 and 11. So we send about half of our money over to just a pass through in order to continue with our fire rescue. So it's been a process in the past couple of years because it's been on our radar from the very beginning, as well as the water company and the water, because it's things that are provided for the community. And we have to make sure that we're making sure we get the best. And so it's one of those issues that we have continued to slowly but surely address. And so we're trying to do that.
So right now, Martin County has a station in Indiantown.
Yes, ma'am.
So the response is quick, but
yes, ma'am.
You're discussing, is it cheaper to have your own fire station?
What
can you share some of the statistics of what the financials look like for that if Indiantown were to provide their own?
And I did not bring anything with me, so this is from memory, and Lord knows.
So don't hold her to it. Don't hold her to it.
Faulty memory. We just this past Saturday had a strategic planning session to do with fire rescue. And we received information back from our consultant that we have in dealing with this regarding numbers. And this, like I said, this past year, fire rescue cost us $5.3 million. So we received different options, how to address fire rescue. We can stay with Martin County. We can, contract everything out. We can have our own fire station and contract out EMS. And if you look at the statistics or the numbers that were given to us in those options and they said that they tried to be very, they padded them. They made sure that they were very pessimistic. They weren't overly optimistic because, don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so there's always, as in anything we learn in life, even though you may budget a certain amount, make sure that you budget at least, 10, 20% more, because you're going to have things that
The unforeseen.
the unforeseen. Absolutely. So the statement was made that those statistics or those numbers, financials that we were given, made sure that they were very healthy.
Okay.
And there were savings, anywhere from $200,000, I want to say up to almost $1 million. And it was just the different options and however we chose to move forward with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the council's still very much discussing what's the best.
Very much discussing,
take.
very much making sure that we get information. Make sure, because I know the day before, this past Friday, we did a field trip, went over to Sebring because they went through the process of breaking away and providing their own. And so we were able to look at what they did, talk with their fire chief, and it was very informative.
Oh,
very
excellent.
informative. Yes, absolutely.
Well, tell us a little bit. Again, we're speaking with Indiantown Council Member Susan Gibb Thomas. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Did you hold an office before Indiantown, a political office? Is this the first time out?
This is the first time out. It's interesting coming into the situation because Indiantown first voted back in 2017 about incorporating. And you had your yeses and your nos. There was a big push, and it was, everything is timing.
Right.
And Indiantown, through the years, right or wrong or indifferent, it's been kind of, well, we're in the western part in Martin County. Our tax dollars doesn't get back to us, so we're kind of forgotten. And so that kind of set the stage for incorporation. So people felt like, they wanted to take control of their destiny, which, and make sure that the money is spent in our community. So there was the incorporation vote, and I voted no. I actually spent some of my money, for signs saying vote no. And the reason that I took that stance was because the campaign to incorporate said, we will have a very small government and your taxes will go down. And in my lifetime, the age that I am, I have never seen small government, and I've never known my taxes to really go down. So just the way that it was being sold, I was a no person. And so then when it passed, you had 10 people that ran for 5 seats.
Mm-hmm.
10 people ran, 9 were for incorporation. I was the one that was not for incorporation. So I wound up being one of the 5 that were put on the council.
Which is wonderful because you have more voices then and more opinions and more ideas.
Yes.
So I think that's absolutely wonderful. I think as I remember too, part of the catalyst, and you spoke very eloquently about the reason why the incorporation happened, and that is you were a donor community. You
Yes, ma'am.
pay more taxes than you get back.
Yes, ma'am.
And I also remember there was some different plants. I remember, I want to say, was it EcoGen? Help me out. It was a plant that was going to come there in the county.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The county voted
Did
no,
not support it,
did not
yes.
support it, and they ended up leaving. It would have brought some really well-paying
ma'am.
jobs to the Indiantown area, and I think that was part of the catalyst that
yes, ma'am.
people said, you know what, we have to control our own destiny.
Yes, ma'am.
And with that, tell me this: have the taxes went down?
For our part, for the village part, our very first budget process, we did have to impose some sort of a millage rate. It wasn't even a 1%. It was a point something millage rate because we had to have something to run the village on, to make sure that we're paying our bills.
Right.
But from that point forward, we have not raised the millage rate for our portion. Now, every year because Indiantown is a part of Martin County, it seems, every year other taxes from other entities seem to be, raised but no. Technically, they have not gone down.
So they have not gone down. And then, we have to figure out what's going on with the water plant. You had mentioned that as well. And I think that's something that needs to be upgraded. Is that
Oh,
right?
yes,
Or-
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The water company in Indiantown was privately held.
Okay.
And that was when we had our very first strategic planning session way back when, 3 years ago. That was one of the items on that strategic planning, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. That was on because the people in Indiantown are like, it smells or it's got some stuff in it or it's yellow but it was privately held. So in this past year and a half, the stars aligned and we had the opportunity to move forward in purchasing it.
Okay.
And when people would ask me about it, they would say, "Oh, why you're gonna, it's gonna be an anvil around our neck." Yeah. But if you look at if it is sold to another private entity or if it's sold to the municipality, what is better for the community? Then your municipality has opportunities that your private company would not have. Plus, your municipality would take any proceeds and put back into the system.
And opportunities, you mean like grants? Is that what you're referring to? If like a municipality could get a government grant
Yes.
through the state or
Absolutely, yes.
private-
That the private company does not have an opportunity for. Absolutely. But the proceeds, from your bills,
Right.
it's not, we're not for profit. So those would go back into the system to upgrade it, to get the new sewer pipes, new water pipes, the things that need to be addressed that have not been addressed in that water company for 50 years, 60 years, whatever it is. So I think that was a good thing. And what people I tried to let them know was that's not a taxpayer funded project. It has customers and it's a customer base. So the customers will be the ones that will be supporting that, not your taxes and your taxpayer.
Okay.
So it's kind of two different things.
Right,
there.
right. So very important for them to realize that.
Yes.
Do you see that the water bill would remain about the same, or would it need to go up so that you can do the repairs?
From the funding from what we received as a council, the information that we received at the council, the rates that were rolled from and what we rolled to were pennies less. We
Okay.
were pennies less.
Okay.
People are saying that they find that their water bill has gone up. In upgrading, we are getting new meters. Everybody has, getting a new meter. So there are variables. Everybody needs to make sure that you're looking and you're comparing oranges to oranges and not apples to oranges, because they may have had a meter that was broken. So their bill may have been estimated every month.
Right. Oh my.
Well, now they get a new meter, a smart meter. We're trying
Right.
to bring everybody into the 21st century.
Right.
And so the reality is you were actually using, this amount of water, not this amount. So everybody needs to be, and I would encourage the people that live in Indiantown, be informed. If you have a question, make sure that you're asking those questions to the people that can answer them and answer them correctly. Ask.
Again, we're speaking with Susan Gibbs Thomas, Indiantown Council member. And Susan, really appreciate you coming in here today. And speaking of having people be informed and involved, what's your impression sitting on the council? Do you have, do you wish, you probably always wish there's more community involvement and more input, but also that
Yes, ma'am.
it can be tough as well. But
Yes, ma'am.
it's super important for especially a new and an upstarting council to get the feedback from the members of the community. So do you feel like there's been enough, or are you guys just kind of out there hoping that they agree with what you're doing?
Always could use more. I think that you have a very small, I want to say circle of friends, but you have a small number of people that are in any organization.
Right.
You have the ones that are there all the time that are going to be those doers.
Right.
We have that. We have that small number that are going to make sure that they come to the meeting, they zoom in, they listen, they know what's going on. For the majority of the people, that's the thing that's frustrating to me, is getting the community involvement, making sure that we hear from everybody, and we're not just they kind of set us on automatic and they'll do. And there's also some apathy. Well, they're going to do what they want to do. They don't listen to us anyway. And we can't listen if we don't hear.
Right.
So we need to hear, and then you hold us responsible for listening.
That's absolutely right. And that's what the votes are about, right? And
Absolutely.
when the elections come up every 2 years.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's not even every 2 years. Make sure that
each seat is 4, right?
It is now.
Okay.
It is now. Yes. This last election put those 2 seats into that 4-year category.
Perfect.
Yes, absolutely. But we make votes on that council in every meeting. The community has an opportunity every meeting to make sure that your vote counts, your voice counts. I know that there's a push. You hear people say, well, we want to vote for mayor. We want to be able to vote for mayor. And I say, you're able to. Every August and September, make sure that you're talking to your council members.
Right.
Send those emails, call them, and let them know, well, this is who we want for mayor.
Right.
So you do have that opportunity.
So, Susan, I'm sitting here looking here a little bit about your city manager.
Yes, ma'am.
He has been on a year, right? He just recently had a yearly review.
But we've had him 2 years.
2 years you've had
him.
So
we did the evaluation last year. So this is actually our second evaluation.
Second evaluation.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is very important for the council to do this, of course.
Ma'am.
And
yes, ma'am.
And we've had Eric Miller on previously from Talk About Martin. So we've heard some of the issues that are going on with Indiantown.
Okay.
And I was very interested in your review. I haven't been able to see all the council members' reviews, but your evaluation, we'll put it out there. If it's a school grade, you gave them a 56%. So
no, great.
It's a school grade.
And I looked at, and I don't have it in front of me, because I looked at those definitions.
Right.
And that's what I went by, because in the position that I am, I do evaluations for my staff. I have staff that I am responsible for. And I guess I may be a little more, I'm harder, because I really look at it. I'm not going to say excellent, 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 because then that's saying that they're perfect and they have nowhere to improve.
Right.
Nobody's perfect.
Right.
And Mr. Brown, he does work hard. There is room for improvement. And I discussed my evaluation with him before council meeting with it. So, and like I said, I appreciate him. There's nothing saying nothing against him personally, but there were a few things during the year, and this is my interaction. Somebody else on the council, their interaction may be different.
Correct. This was your
this is my perspective. Yeah. So
it's important, and I think that is how people will improve.
Yeah.
You need to be critical. I know you're talking about communication, and you look at some of the reviews you had done, and that was part of the issue is you feel like there could be better communications between the community with employees,
Yes.
So,
and I think that is what you just said is a very key word, employees. When we hire somebody, we're not hiring somebody to be a friend.
Right.
They're not necessarily, to a certain extent, yes, they are a colleague, but we're still the boss. We are still the supervisor. And I don't know how many people on that council have had the opportunity to be in that role, to be a supervisor. So it may be a new experience, and it is definitely a learning experience. I think in that role, you have to realize you're not trying to hurt somebody's feelings, because let me tell you what, it is a hard thing to, you really, for me, I go back to those definitions to make sure that, okay, I can stand by this. And I stand by my evaluation, because I looked at those, and there were issues that I had. So I stand by it, and I just think it maybe everybody's got a different perspective, and that was my perspective, because I have been in that supervisory role, and what we do have is employees, and they are tasked to do a job. And yes, this past year there has been lots of things that have been many moving parts that have been accomplished. And we move forward with the water company.
Right.
But then there are more subtle things that you have to realize too. So
there certainly is. And all the way through, you even, talked about fiscal management was one of the areas that you evaluate. Running this village.
Mhm.
It is running a business as
Yes,
well.
ma'am.
And it's very important that
Yes, ma'am.
your manager
Yes.
is able to be fiscally responsible,
Yes.
understand all the
Yes.
moving parts, and of course, have a staff that's supportive
And once again, I may have a different perspective because when we were incorporated, a part of that whole campaign was small government,
right.
and we continue to add and add and add and add. And it's his perspective, and it's where he is coming from. Sometimes I feel like the avenue that we were headed down, staff is not listening, and maybe they are listening. I'm one of 5, so
Right.
I'm just one, but Indiantown, I hear people tell me Indiantown is not going to be Indiantown. It's not going to stay Indiantown. It's changing. Yeah, and change will come. But I think the way that we are able to head it down a path, we can keep it and
Mhm.
keep it an Indiantown feel. But it seems to be big government. I mean, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I know that that's kind of the background and that he's coming from. I realize that, and the places that have he's got his experience with, and I just and once again, my perspective, I'm one of 5, would wish that we would kind of look at, well, we could do it differently. We're
Right.
different. We're not Martin County. We're
Right.
not Stewart.
Right.
We're rural. We should have a different feel. And I'm just, that's my perspective. Are we headed down the right road?
Well, certainly, from my perspective as well, less government is better. So, growing it and growing government and hiring, all kinds of experts or hiring more people for staff is not always the best thing. It truly isn't. It's a lot
Now,
of money.
let me kind of clarify that.
Go right ahead.
The council is the experts. I have said this. I know that from the dais, people have said we hire experts. We, the council, is the experts. That's my opinion. We are the experts on Indiantown.
Right.
We have been born there. We have been raised there generationally. I am the 4th generation to work at Warfield Elementary.
Are you really?
Yes, I am. So we are the experts on Indiantown. We hire professionals to help us move forward.
Right.
So that's my perspective. And I think that the council, in the job that we do, it's our responsibility to step up and to make sure that staff is doing what we foresee and make sure that it's Indiantown's vision for Indiantown moving forward, not somebody else's vision for Indiantown moving forward.
Dave Hafner, appreciate you tuning in. He said, going back a little bit on our conversation, right? Our representatives need to hear from us. They can't act on our behalf if we are not in contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And well said, and that is
Yes.
true. Moving forward, so this is an annual review.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what last year's looked like, unfortunately. So I don't know if you saw improvement over the last year with some of these things, or if maybe they were on the other end of the spectrum. We're not improving.
Well, I think this year, well, now in some aspects, I mean, he got a 4.8 from somebody out of 5.
Right.
And like I said, I appreciate him. He's good at what he does, but he's not walking on water yet for me. And mine may be a little bit lower, but it's just, like I said, my perspective and my interaction this past year. There was some overreach, in some areas. So it's just the way it fell this year.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your openness and your honesty and your critical reviews. We've got just about 30 seconds here left. I know the half hour flies by. But again, council member from Indiantown, Susan Gibbs Thomas, appreciate you being in the studio today and hope you come back and give us some more updates in the future.
Absolutely. Just let me know when.
You bet we'll do that. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, we are back and we've changed our guest here in the studio. So we're back here to talk a little bit more about Indiantown and some more about Martin County as well. There's so much that's going on. So here at the Casey Ingram Show, I want to remind everybody you can sign up for a weekly notification of who the special guest or guest will be in the studio. And you can do that at my website, thecaseyingramshow.com. If you don't see that email, just check your spam folder. Sometimes it ends up there. So we just had council member from Indiantown, Susan Gibbs Thomas, in the studio, and wonderful to hear from her. So lots of things going on. Yeah, Susan, it was very informative, and we're going to have her back. So there's always something good going on in Indiantown, right?
Yeah, there is.
There
As a
is.
matter of fact, something good going on in Indiantown. So everyone doesn't say talkaboutmartin.com is negative all of the time. All of the time. Nobody likes a guy that tells the truth in the room. You go to a party and tell the truth. You're not going to ask somebody to bring you a beer. Okay. It just ain't happening. But listen, we do have some good news. The Indiantown Veterans Association, who I'm associated with, has been donated a building from Twin Oaks Pet Cemetery in Okeechobee. They had, yes, indeed.
Wonderful.
It is similar to and even more structurally sound than the post that was knocked down by the tornado 11 years ago.
Wow.
And I'd like to thank Commissioners Smith and Campy and Jenkins, because they've helped us over a lot of hurdles, getting rezoned and doing a lot of things to help the Indiantown Veterans Association get to a point that we could get this building brought on. We're looking forward to working with county staff to have a smooth transition and getting our building put into place so that we can continue a 60-year legacy of being a center point in Indiantown for the community to gather, specifically the veterans community and their supporters over the years. And it's been missing for a decade. There's been connections and friendships lost. Communications have slowed down, if you can believe communications slowing down in Indiantown, but there's been a lot of loss within the community culturally by not having a post. And we've been working very hard. We had it donated. We've contracted with a licensed company to help us put it down. And anyway, long story short, we're looking forward to working with county to get this done.
So this is Eric Miller from Talk About Martin, and he's been on before, and this is a super, super important project that you have helped to undertake. So, congratulations to you. I mean, are you still raising money for that?
We are. There's a GoFundMe account that's still up. We have more expense to go because, as the county has made very clear, we still have some permitting to do, boys and girls. We have to, we're going to have to put in a drain field, which we know we need. But we're looking forward to it because it's going to allow us to hold events again. We have horseshoe pits out there that we're ready to renovate, to bring back. There's so much recreational activity and family oriented type activity that took place within that post. And I have to tell you, I as a member of the Indiantown Veterans Association, I'm honored to be a part of it because it's a 60-year legacy of veterans that returned from World War II and took their own money and put their own mortgages, signatures on the line to buy that property so there would be a place in perpetuity. We are an organization that has that in mind. This land organization will be here in perpetuity for those that have taken the time to serve in the U.S. military.
And God bless you all. Thank you. I mean, that's so important. And I said, what a shame that we didn't have a place for over a decade now for the veterans to gather.
This is our chaplain, Tony Z.
Tony Zwiner, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
I'm so glad you joined us here in the studio. Tony Zwiner, actually, you are part of the newly committee, the LPA. Is that right? Did I remember that right?
Planning zoning.
The planning zoning. Okay. Very close. Out in Indiantown. And Tony, we were talking a little bit about the fire station with Susan, and she mentioned a trip that they took to Sebring. And I think you know something about that.
I had that experience. Yes, it was enlightening for me. I learned a lot of things about myself, things that I didn't know. Quite honestly, my perspective of being at the back of the bus allowed me to watch the faces and the reactions, the body language of the people involved in it. Immediately, I was informed by one of the council people that all my shortcomings. And as soon as we got past that, such as being me and my people, being the naysayers of the community, which
Eric raises his hand for those that are listening.
Can I interject one quick second? I think a preface to this needs to be made that Howard Brown drove the county or the village passenger van with council members and staff to Sebring minus Miss Thomas because she had to return to work sooner than she could stay for the meeting. And it was a noticed meeting that I guess was noticed in the newspaper, in the Stewart News, but they also put it on the calendar. And Tony said, what a great opportunity to go and find out more about this whole process.
Right.
And kudos to him as a citizen for becoming involved. Tony did this on his own. So when they start talking about naysayers and associations, they really don't know a lot about what they're talking about. And it's good to know that they're listening to us, though, and that they can try to push back. But we're not going away, Casey. We're watchdogs. We're not going away. And when we bark, I would hope that somebody would at least listen to what we have to say and evaluate it. But anyway, I'm sorry. The trip was a very interesting one, and that's a good preface for it.
And I'd like to go on with that.
Please do.
The fact that there was that introduction of shock, I believe, because I was the only naysayer among the group there. I don't think they expected me to be there. So I was left with the feeling that was kind of like the fly in the ointment, which is okay. I was still there for my purpose to learn. And I think that in the end, we walked away with the council recognizing that, yes, I was asking intelligent questions. I wasn't there to shut anything down or to be negative. I actually was there to learn. And I did learn some things, but there was a very informative portion of the trip where the introduction to what we were trying to do or what the council is trying to do and where they're going with this. There was a lot of information given out, but it was in a positive way. And I got to admit, my perspective of what the council is doing is like, I grew up on Iowa farms.
Okay.
So there's an old saying there about a horse taking the bit in its mouth. And this is my perspective of what the council is doing right now, just based on inexperience or perhaps the leadership. I'm not trying to say I don't know, but it feels like they have the bit in their mouth and there's not going to be any control of them. This is what they're going to do, regardless of what they might hear or see, what the consequences might be. They're not listening to it. We are excited about this and we're going to do this. We're, according to one of the council people, despite our best efforts, they're moving this forward. So no listening to alternative opinions.
Well, and it sounds like if it is an alternative opinion, and this is where, it's upsetting for the both of you, is it's been turned into a negative. It's you're a naysayer instead of somebody offering more information.
It's easy to understand what's going on, and I joke about it, but my political background stretches over 2 decades, and a good portion of that has taken place in Martin County politically. There are a lot of people that I know that don't like me. There are a lot of people that told me I better not come in front of them in the legal system, because if I do, that's just the way it's going to be. So I've always been one that has been expressive in my opinion.
No.
And to base it, though, foundationally on a strong American principle of constitutionality. And
right.
If there seems to be a need for me or anyone else to go out and to expose truth, it should be concerning enough that I'm not psychotic. I'm not anything but an average guy that's had an average life, that's run the American dream. Okay. And if I'm seeing this and I'm willing to put my name and reputation on the line, which gets aligned constantly, expect me to fight back a little bit. I'm not going to stand there and take it. These wings don't run.
Right.
Okay. And 2, it should be disconcerting that I'm simply telling the truth, as are other people that are involved with other contributors like yourself and like Tony. We're simply expressing what we're seeing happening in front of us because of experience that we have had. Okay.
Right.
And to not listen to the opinion of someone that has that experience is very short-minded. That's how I have learned. I don't know about you in the past, but Tony's been a contributor in his own style. So have I. And hopefully there's enough people listening to say, we need to get involved, because right now in Indiantown, there are 2 recall processes that are being organized, and there are petitions that are being circulated, both of them with more signatures from registered voters that are necessary. 1, to recall sitting council people for the next election. And 2, there is another one under Florida statute for disbandment of the village itself and dissolution.
Wow.
So the people now, and this is what's most disconcerting to me, because I, like Susan, was against the incorporation of this village. And this is very disconcerting to me now that it's here. And have 40% of the people that voted not to have a village have been watching this. There is now enough concern amongst people that they are willing to take the extreme. All politics nationally is local, and it is equally separated in Indiantown as it is on a national scale. You, and everyone else, we're not going to affect the national level, but we can affect our local level.
Yes.
And to simply, I hate to say this, don't disband it. Not yet. If you really think it's that far gone, you have an election coming up, you should be organizing with a plan and a candidate to put your ideas forward. And if you can't get somebody unelected, don't dissolve what they're elected to. Come on.
Right.
We've got to find a middle ground, and let's find out, because the Democratic Party registration in Indiantown, I know where I'm living in that area.
Right.
I am in a minority.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting to try to apply principle without the politics, because the council positions are supposed to be nonpartisan, but the philosophers of the individuals are carrying strongly along principled lines, whether they're my principles, yours, or anyone else's. So that's where we come in. We're trying to apply that perspective and analysis to the inner cogs, the workings, the things that I've experienced, the things that Tony's experienced, to where what the government does affects our life on a day in and a day out basis. And the way that things are moving, when they start moving in your front yard so fast, you have a choice. You either get out of the way and shut up and watch the whistle blow while it goes by, or you try to figure out how to slow it down.
Right. And that's where you're at.
And that's where I'm at.
You're out, you're being vocal. You've put together Talk About Martin. So TAM for short. But Talk About Martin is that meeting spot, so to speak, on social media, on the web, where you can find out what's happening. Yes, it's a wonderful site.
Well, we enjoy putting the things out there.
Well, it's important, and it gives people an opportunity to find out a little bit more what's going on in their community. They can also contribute. They can send letters or write articles, whatever it is, to you, anything to become more involved. As I'm listening to you both here, one of the major things with the incorporation of Indiantown that we had done a show on in the past with Scott Watson was losing property rights. Call you a naysayer? No, you need to be a naysayer about that. These are property rights that folks have to run businesses. And when you have rights taken away and you're not able to run your business the way you need to, that's a huge issue. And that's only one thing of many. I know we've talked about a lot here in the past, but
let's take a look at how about Western Auto? I mean, if Western Auto goes for any kind of building improvement, they're not going to meet code. They can keep what they have, they've been told. So none of their rights are going to be taken away until they want to operate in the new system of rights. And then it will be the transformation that takes place. So, there's a philosophy of splitting hairs, I guess, but when you understand the principles of progressivism, Marxism, socialism, capitalism, which I don't think that a couple of the people on that council have even run a lemonade stand, let alone gotten a check from an employer other than the United States taxpayer. Right. So you have two of them up there that are in a position that can honestly, now Guyton Stone, he has a number of marketing jobs that he's done. Anthony had a corporation that's now 2 years defunct that he still claims is operational, and some releases. We've got the corroborating, screenshots and documents on that. So I'm not telling tale out of turn. Anyway, I'm not looking at putting names to faces on this, but my point is that there's a mentality, and I'm not going to question the motive other than principle. And if your principles are adverse to American principle, then they are adverse to me as an American. And I will stand in the town square and I will open my mouth and I will object to adverse American principles being used for governance, whether it be in my county or in my neighbor's town next door. Period. It's that easy.
And I'll be there with him.
And again, we're speaking with Tony Zwiner, and we're speaking with Eric Miller, Talk About Martin contributors both. And Eric is actually the father of Talk About Martin. You're the creator. So
actually, no, you know what it was? It was the election process that took place in Indiantown, and the now 12 ethics complaints and 12 ethics complaints that are still outstanding against that last election that haven't been resolved, which I believe. Oh, and by the way, I understand that Mr. Burns may be monitoring now the Zoom meetings via the Zoom process, and he seems to leave right after council comments.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting, considering that he's still under investigation too. You'd think he'd be smart enough to keep his nose out of business as to what's going on down here, but evidently not.
No, it doesn't appear so. If that's
nobody
the case,
accused him of having a brain, that's for sure.
So with the recall votes, it's actually surprising to me. You said there's enough signatures for this to go onto the ballot. So where is this going here in the future?
I don't know.
Just don't know. They just
I
have
don't
the
know.
petitions.
I guess I'm enough of an influence that I'm not even want to. Well, never mind. We haven't been called to the table, as they say,
right.
to have these discussions at an open
Right.
at an open level with those that would have to make those
Okay.
decisions, because some
Broadcast
of them in the past have been on the opposite side politically.
Right.
And I'm not sure that they know how to heal the wounds that they've allowed to be created. Which with me, it's okay. What's in the past has happened. We have to deal with the future and what's in front of us. So now I would hope that whoever those decision makers are, that they come together quickly in Indiantown. If you haven't already, seems that you have, and good. I just hope that when it's your turn next, that you remember where you were when you get to that point, and act like Ms. Thomas does, and she actually represents the entire constituency of Indiantown, and doesn't have a group that she associates as her people, as has been said multiple times from other council people on that committee. And I commend her for that. And for that, Susan and I have found friendship in that she is actually governing like an American under American constitutional, principle and standard of ethical morality within governance. Can you even say that anymore? But she's at least trying. She understands her position. As you heard her talk, she knows who she is. She knows where she's at. She knows what needs to be done. And unfortunately, I don't think that it's being approached in the same manner by most, if not all, of the other council people. And a lot of that reflects back on Howard Brown, with his just iron dome style of management that does not allow for in the sunshine opportunities, like a passenger van being driven to a meeting that is declared a public meeting, thinking that no one is going to see it and show up. And when somebody does show up, I can't imagine how that actually threw kind of a wrinkle on some eyebrows as to what do we do now, Max,
How many other residents showed up that were not part of government?
There would be, one
other.
Because one of the three residents was also on the PZA.
Okay. All right.
So,
isn't that
and
something?
I consider that part of the governance.
You're right. It is. Okay.
As were you. You are on the PZA.
Yeah, right.
as
So
well.
there was three residents
Three residents
outside of our
council members.
council, and then,
Right.
and
Okay.
Mr. Howard Brown.
Okay. That's very interesting. And, Susan Thomas, she absolutely, I really enjoyed speaking with her because she seemed like a person that was,
I apologize. I'm being corrected. There was four.
There was four. Okay. She's viewing things with a critical eye, but it's a fair eye. So, and what I mean by that is, she's not there to try and be friends with everybody. And she brought up, she has some experiences where she's done evaluations before. So an evaluation is needed to critique. If there needs to be improvement, then you need to, even if it isn't something that isn't
mine.
Yeah. And even if it isn't, the best end number or best evaluation, it's what you need to improve. So, and remind everybody too, that your city manager works for the council. They are his boss. So
Exactly. But it's not working that way.
It's kind of reversed.
It is reversed.
From my perspective on the outside, kind of reversed. In
and
fact,
that's
his
a
words
problem.
to me was, my job is to protect them. And he's doing that by leading them up front. So, I mean, he's doing his job very well.
I think it goes deeper than that. He is able to hide the entire agenda building process. And what is it, if not an agenda that a political council has? Okay. I mean, let's really talk about it. There are agendas up there, and he has the ability to not only physically the agenda that's used for discussion and voting on, but he's also controlling the agenda of ideas and the marketplace of ideas by not allowing those discussions of what are the ideas and how do we go about them and for consideration to happen in the sunshine. He does it individually with each of the supposedly individually with the council members, but the same conversation of ideas can be relayed until it comes to one council member that may need to hear something else, because now he's favorably gotten results from three. Well, well, but this doesn't happen
yeah.
in the sunshine. The people don't know about these conversations, and the agenda that's created comes from these conversations,
Right.
like the hiring of consultants and the firing of consultants. So he has an opportunity to feel the sympathy vote and the sympathy of each council person one-on-one without anyone else around. And that, you know what, I'll tell you what, you give that kind of control to a person that understands what that power actually is and is able to camouflage themselves in such a way that all they have to do is smile and just sit back and keep their mouth shut for the most part, or double speak to you. That's very dangerous, people.
It is.
And he's not the only manager in systems that are set up like this that would have an opportunity to take advantage of it. So all I've been saying is, let's get that portion of this whole agenda building process out into the open, to where it's an open meeting for people to hear. That way, we all know at the same time what the idea is, where it came from, who wants to put it on the agenda to discuss it further. Just a simple vote. We don't have to have discussion at this point.
Right.
But bring your ideas, not by a controlling. Argue against that. I don't know, but they're still trying to do. Anthony says, if you want to hear the real news, come to us and ask us. Don't listen to these people on Facebook.
Yeah.
He's actually said this in meeting. Come to me.
Wow.
That's what I do every time I want to know what the truth is about the government. I run to the government and ask them to tell me the truth.
Right.
I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Hi. But when you
Exactly.
make your income for your entire life from the governmental process, it's the principled thing to do, I suppose.
Well, and you talked about this last time you were on the show as well, and I'm sure you voiced your concerns to the council, to the city manager. What's the response that you get? Just ignoring, or?
The first time I did, it turned out that they ended up getting a sheriff for the next meeting. They've had him there ever since. I was told that they felt threatened. So I haven't felt a need to have face-to-face communication with any of them. I allow what they say and do as a public servant speak for themselves. I am critiquing primarily on, totally on their performance as a elected politician. Okay, that's my right as an American to do that. And when I need to try to explain my position because I've been attacked, sometimes it may get into party principle. It may get into the affiliations that they keep. It may get into the lack of credential. It may get into the lack of principle, but it's not me going after the individual. I could sit down with that entire council and have a lasagna dinner with them very peacefully and quiet and not even have to talk about politics, quite honestly. I'm sick about talking about politics. But when the politics, quote unquote, what we're talking about is politics. This is principle. This is lack of principle. This is different idealisms that are driving the American spirit out of America. And when it happens in our front yard, we have to at least stand up and say, hey, everybody, look over here.
Community itself, do they understand the role of? Do they understand what's going on? Do you think, or is everybody just?
You're closer on that one to me. Do you think that your neighbors understand the role of the manager? Do they understand that they're being steamrolled?
The latter part there, no, I don't believe they do. I didn't say that. But no, they don't. I don't feel that they do understand that. I don't think they do understand exactly what the role is. He seems to me in our conversations to have presented himself as a leader, not a servant. And I think that's his perspective of what his job is. And so, no, they don't. To answer very shortly, no, they don't.
There must be a reason that we have to spend tens of thousands of dollars for translation on everything. So if you don't understand the American language, you're going to have a real hard time understanding the basic constitutional principles of the governance that we've agreed to have placed upon us. And when those liberties are infringed upon, people are here because of the raids on the Guatemalan Congress, the genocides that have taken place in Central America. There are people legitimately here that appreciate the freedom that can't speak English. I get that. But, however, okay, that does not bemoan the fact that the actions and behaviors are taking place, right? Just because that large segment of a population doesn't get it, doesn't mean that it shouldn't be addressed by the people. And I think that there are enough good, solid Americans in Indiantown from my experience of living there for a decade before this happened, and making some very close relationships with people very quickly, because Indiantown has some of the best people I have met in my travels across the globe. And I have been in other countries. I've been in communist countries. I have been to places, and Indiantown is a very blessed place.
Agreed.
And it needs its heritage. And just like the IVA, 60 years of veterans heritage. There is other heritage that has taken place. A 4th generation Warfield teacher on the council, that is heritage.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So those things, there are enough people out there that understand that aspect, whether they understand the whole esoteric high level philosophy of this whole game that's being played against them. I don't think most people do. Most people are looking for somewhere to go because they know things aren't right. And we can help try to give you information at talkaboutmartin.com. And that's what we're trying to do. Preserve the American way of life.
If I may.
Go ahead, Tony.
I want to bring up Talk About Martin very quickly.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people understand what Talk About Martin is. It's a safe platform. And Eric is not the only contributor, nor am I. There are multiple contributors to this platform. Many voices are being heard and opinions are being shared there. Not all do I agree with, not all of them agree with me. For example, now, if you want to know more about the IVA, there is a video there that will give a lot more information. We have posted many videos there. Many people have posted other opinions. You're welcome to come and see. I would suggest that you do, because it is an alternative view. For example, I am viewed by the council as being a naysayer, and I've been painted as a no-growth person. And this is so untrue and so unfair. I am not no growth. I am strategic growth.
Right.
I am not a naysayer. I am a concerned citizen.
Absolutely. And again,
And I fear they're going to lead us over the edge of financial collapse.
So very important. We got just 30 seconds left. Talk About Martin as definitely the place to go to find out what's happening in your community, not just Indiantown, but all of Martin County. Next week, we're going to have the the Arc of St. Lucie County on, Athari Koning, and we're also going to have Commissioner Becky Bruner from the City of Stuart with Nina Dooley. And we're going to have all kinds of fun talks and communication next week. So we'll see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Eric Miller.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Keep
ma'am.
up the fight. Keep up the good fight.
And you as well. Thank you so much.